What's good, new types? This is Carol from Lockout Games bringing you a match between white-green wing on the red player side and blue-white blockers on the blue player side. So let's get into it. With the current card pool, both of these decks are pretty powerful and able to extend out the game pretty much to get to an end state where the level 5s and 6s are just taking over and playing the early game to stop you with blockers and essentially buy out that time. But it looks like the blue player is just going to play their one resource and then pass turn over to the red player, who is at level 2 right now since they went second, and is going to play out a Overflowing Affection, which is a pretty good first turn. You're able to fix your hand a little bit more for the late game and maybe get some of the pilots or the high level units that you might need for the future. Red player passes the turn over to the blue player, and they're going to go up to their 2 resources. It looks like they might be eyeing an Overflowing Affection, and they are going to play it, so this is going to be a bit of a safer start for both players as they are using the cards to just look at the top of their decks and kind of fix their hands. There's not a lot of early 2-2 attackers or 1-1 attackers that are on the board. Most builds for both of these decks aren't playing a lot of early attackers, so you are able to take your time and set up in the beginning and then really do a lot of the damage mid-range to the end portion of the game. Now that that card has been discarded, the turn is going to go over to the red player, starting their turn 2. Using up 2 of the resources, they're going to play as a Wart. So this is what I was talking about with the more of a defender type unit. It does have 3-2, but it isn't able to attack into a player. So it's strictly for either defense or attacking into another unit and just cleaning up the field. Blue player is going to start their turn, and with 1 they're going to play another Overflowing Affection, so they might have had a couple in their hand from the opening start, or they might have drawn into it from that last Overflowing Affection. But at this point we can expect them to have their hand fixed pretty well for what they need for the later turns, especially turns 4 and 5, where we can expect the real battling to happen. And then to finish off their turn, they're going to play as a Wart as well. So it looks like we got 2 blockers just kind of staring at each other, waiting for the first one to swing in so that they're able to attack the other one. But with that, we're going over to the red player's turn, and they're going to use 3 resources and play down a Wing Bird mode. This is going to ramp them pretty significantly, going from level 4 this turn to level 6 next turn with that extra EX resource that was produced. And they now have an attacker, but they do have to worry about the Zawart trying to swing past that if they really want to. Finishing up their turn, they're going to pass it back over to the blue player. The blue player is going to play a Rizel, and it has a 4-3 stat line, which is normally pretty good. However, the Zawart having 3 attack really nullifies that. It does trade up very well against a lot of units that want to swing in and can do a decent amount of damage. So right now we're still kind of looking at a rough stalemate, as nobody's going to be able to get a clean swing in. I really enjoyed this part of the game where you're having to make those tactical decisions on what to swing in with and whether or not it's going to be worth trading on the board with like a blocker. And speaking of blocker, we got Lifrith coming out onto the board, which is, in my opinion, one of the best blockers in the game right now for the stat line that it has and what it's able to do. Being a 2-4 on level 3 just really messes up that math again for attackers. Then the red player is going to play a Path to Victory or Defeat, looking at the top 5 cards and then pulling out either a pilot or a unit that has the Operation Meteor tag. I hope that a lot of other factions get draw cards like this or search cards like this in the future, because it's pretty good designed and it really does help. We're going to see Bird Mode swing in, and the blue player is just going to let it hit the EX base. It only does 2 damage, so the base is still going to be there. While the EX base was damaged, it wasn't destroyed, so if the blue player wanted, they could still change out the EX base for a different base and not go down too much in their shields. However, the more important thing is this does now open up the field for stuff like Zawart to attack in and possibly start exchanging units. The blue player is going to go and play an Ailstrike Gundam. Let's see if they pair or link it with a pilot to bounce something back. I would imagine if they do, then they're probably going to go for the Lifrith to get that out of the way, as it has the most health and can't really be traded into right now. And yep, seems like they're going to go with the Lifrith, take that off of the field. So now the only blocker left is going to be that Zawart, which swinging in, the Ailstrike is going to be able to take out the base. And if Zawart does block that, it is going to get destroyed and not take out the Ailstrike as well. because it's only going to have 1 AP, as we see the Kira effect being used on the Zwart. So the red player is just going to let that go through, not block, and potentially do some more damage to something like the Rizel if it does swing in, and trade with that, which they are going to block. So yep, that's going to be the Rizel and the Zwart off of the field, and then that leaves the Zwart able to swing into the bird mode if they want, but they aren't, and they're just going to pass a turn, so that's going to go over to the red player. The red player is going to replay the Lifrith that was bounced last turn, so now they do have 1 blocker on the field for themselves, and then using another 3 resources, it looks like they're going to play another bird mode, so this is going to get them an extra EX resource. So now they're up to level 7, so representing the Wing Gundam next turn if they really want to start clearing out some of the board, and then swinging in with a bird mode for 2. The Zwart is going to be used to block this, so that's going to trade with the bird mode, leaving only 1 unit on the blue player side with 3 on the red. And for right now, the blue player is in a position where if they start trying to play around the Wing Zero, then there's a chance that the red player just doesn't actually play it and gets in some essentially free attacks with both of their units. So this is where the threat of a Wing Zero coming down onto the field has to be respected to a degree, but then you also don't want to not advance your board state to where they're getting essentially free attacks or able to maximize their units before they play it. The blue player is going to use a Show of Resolve and probably look for maybe a couple more higher level units so that maybe they don't take damage from the Wing Zero when and if it does come out this turn, so that they're setting themselves up to being able to advance their board state and still put pressure. And speaking of pressure, the blue player is going to swing in with the Ailstrike Gundam. It's going to get blocked by the Gundam Lifrith, which is not going to do any damage because they use the Kira ability to minus its AP by 2, and then play a Strike Pack. So this is going to be able to either play a 4-2 or a 2-4 blocker. With the expectation that Wing Zero might come out, they're probably going to go with a 2-4 blocker so that way it can survive and still be used to block something else that might come out that same turn or the turn after. Blue player is then going to pass the turn back over to the red player. So now they're at 9 resources total, with 3 of them being EX resources, and they're going to start off the turn by playing an underground desert base. So this is going to be that 0-6 base, pretty beefy, as it's going to normally take a high level unit that is paired or linked to take it out in one shot. So really shoring up their defense for this and maybe setting up for delaying out the Wing Zero play a little bit more so they can get some benefit from it. The bird mode is going to swing in and be blocked by the Launcher Strike, which it's going to live, but now it's going to be within that danger range of being able to be taken out by a Wing Zero. And just a small note, the looks like they just didn't put the damage counters on the Launcher Strike just yet, and we do see the Wing Zero being played now, so that doesn't really matter too much, as the Launcher Strike should be getting destroyed from the 3 damage to this, as well as the Ailstrike taking 3. Playing the Wing Gundam was a powerful move to clear out a lot of stuff on the board and establish that board presence, but it did send the red player back down to level 6, and are going to have to take some time to rebuild up the levels that they have. Starting off the blue player's turn, they're going to go ahead and draw a card, and right now, if they swing in with the Ailstrike, they are going to be able to take out the desert base, but they're going to go with another Show of Resolve using this turn, or at least the beginning of the turn, to draw 2 more cards and maybe look for some answers. Right now, they are still in a decent position as they are ahead in shields, but they do have that base that they have to get through, which the Ailstrike looks like it's going to swing and take out that base right now. If they have the units for it, this would be a good time to start putting some bodies on the field, as they don't have to worry about a Wing Zero popping up next turn. And they're going to go with another Ailstrike Gundam, so it does have blocker. However, the Wing Zero has high maneuver just on the card, so it is going to be able to swing past any of the blockers right now. So at this point, I would say there's a little bit of a race going on. Right now, the red player has a unit that's not able to be blocked and is going to be able to continuously go into the base or the shields and essentially just destroy one for free each turn. However, it only has 7 health, so unless it is paired with a pilot, it is going to be able to be taken out. It's going to take 2 bodies, however, right now with a Airstrike that has a Kira and a Airstrike without a pilot. So unless the blue player is able to boost the damage somehow, they will have to essentially allocate 2 bodies, and that's just going to buy the red player time or more time to gather up the resources and essentially play another Wing Zero not too far after. For their next move, the red player is going to play a Wing Gundam from the starter deck, the 4/5, and then link it with a hero. So it is a 7/7 right now, and it is able to swing this turn, so we're probably going to see either it trade directly into the weakened Airstrike Gundam, and then that way it's going to be able to use the breach, and then, like I said, start initiating this race while also reducing the amount of units that the blue player has, or maybe even just swinging directly into the shields and then having the blue player have to figure it out the next turn. But it is going to go directly into the Airstrike Gundam. So Wing is going to live because it has 7 health and it has 1 HP left after that attack. And now the blue player is essentially stuck in a position of, do they strike with the Airstrike into the Wing Gundam and possibly take that out so that breach doesn't keep hitting them? Or do they want to potentially bounce it by pairing a pilot with the Airstrike and sending the Wing Gundam back to hand? It would be able to link with the hero again and attack the turn it's played. However, that would take 5 resources, which means the Wing Zero wouldn't be able to be played that same turn. So there could be some benefit as to knowing what 2 actions essentially your opponent would be able to play. However, it really does depend on what units the blue player is able to get onto the field this turn. It looks like they're thinking about something and then going with the Freedom Gundam. So this is going to be a level 7 4/6. It's not going to be affected by Wing Zero when it's played. And it is able to affect the board pretty significantly, especially when it's now getting linked with a Kira Yamamoto. This is going to be able to minus 4 AP to one of the units on the field. And with the Wing Gundam, that would bring it down to only 3 AP, so anything that swings in will be able to survive. And it looks like they're going to choose the Wing Gundam and then possibly swing into that. Freedom being able to reduce the AP and swing into the Wing Gundam right now is pretty beneficial, so it is only going to take 3 damage based off of the Kira effect and the Freedom effect, but then we see an unforeseen incident being played, which is going to reduce the AP down to 0. So now the Freedom Gundam is not going to take anything, and it is going to get rid of a breaching attacker for the red player side. This was a really great use of Unforeseen Incident. It did take essentially 3 cards to get rid of this Wing Gundam without taking any damage, but now we have a fully powered Freedom Gundam that has to be dealt with at some point. Each turn that Wing Zero has to worry about a unit on the field and not swing into the shields really does kind of reduce its chances of being able to win that race. And the blue player is going to finish off their turn with an Archangel, really great in a kind of like white blockers based deck, as you're able to restand one of your blockers just for 2 resources, which lets you protect them or just have them ready to block for the next turn. And with that, the blue player is going to pass over to the red player. So this turn they're at level 8, so a Wing Zero could hit the field. It would do damage to the Airstrike, and that would be about it, as nothing else is on the field. And it would not be able to be linked with a hero because it would cost exactly 8 at this point. So right now the counterattack options for the Wing player are limited if they decide to go with the Wing Zero, but it seems they've thought about that, so they're going to use 8 resources and then play 1. So that's going to do 3 damage to the Airstrike, leaving it at 1 right now since it doesn't have a pilot on it. And they are going to be able to attack in with the previous Wing Zero if they want to. We'll see if they go for the shield or for the Freedom Gundam. Looks like they're going to swing into the Archangel, and that's going to get rid of that base, which is very smart as it could be used later on to activate a lot of the other blockers that the blue player might play. So right now we are down to 4 shields on the blue player side and 5 on the red. The blue player has 2 attacks available and could reduce the shields down to 3 for the red player, but they're going to use the Freedom Gundam to swing into the Wing Zero. This isn't going to trade either of the Gundams, however it is going to heavily damage both. So they are going to be essentially within trading range, whoever attacks into the other one. But you see the Airstrike finishing off the Wing Zero, and now we have essentially a one-on-one on the board right now. But the blue player still has all of their resources left, and they're going to kind of reconstitute by playing a OG Gundam. It's going to be the level 4 one that gives +1 to everything when it is paired, and then an Amuro come out onto the field that's going to link with that. So keeping the race up, the Gundam is going to swing into the shields, and that's going to reduce it down to 4, but still leaving 2 bodies on the blue player side of the field. And for another 2 resources, the blue player is going to play a Lifrith. It's not going to be able to block the Wing Zero, however, it is another attacker. So we see 3 units on the blue player side with 1 on the red. If the red player decides to play another Wing Zero, nothing on the blue player side of the field will get destroyed inherently, so they'll have to swing in with that Wing Zero. Looks like they're looking for some answers, so they're going with an Overflowing Affection, drawing those 2 cards, and then trashing one of them. And that first Overflowing Affection is now followed up by another one. So the red player is really digging into their deck to try and find some answers. Potentially maybe another Wing Gundam or a Death Scythe if they have that in this build. That would be able to do first strike and take something out on the blue player side of the field without taking damage itself, which would be pretty advantageous in this situation of either having these blockers. But they play a Wing Gundam, and we'll see if they have the hero to link with it so that can attack this turn. That Breach 5 just being a really big deal in helping win the race. But they pair it with a Changwu Fei, so they are going to be able to swing into something that is level 4 or lower next turn, and if it has 3 or less AP, they're not going to take damage. That really does hold the Lifrith at risk right now, as nothing will be able to stop it from being destroyed, and then that 1 damage going to the shields, and then pushing the blue player to 3. And then the red player is going to play a Lifrith of their own, and then swing in with the Wing Zero, which is going to hit an Archangel, and really change up the amount of shields that the blue player has, but will allow them to activate their blockers, or at least one of their blockers, for 2 resources next turn, which could be really good and keeping that defense posture up. The blue player is going to swing in with Freedom Gundam, and it looks like they're deciding which unit on the red player side of the field to use the effect. A big difference now is that with the OG Gundam, it does have 7 attack instead of 6, so it will be able to swing into the Wing Zero and then actually destroy it this turn. And it looks like that's what they decide to do, and then they're only going to take 3 damage themselves using that Kira's -2 effect with it. So that was a really good combo of having that OG Gundam and Freedom at the same time. And then speaking of the OG Gundam, it's going to swing into the shields and hit a Lifrith. And for the attacks, the blue player is going to swing in with a Lifrith of their own. So this is interesting because if the red player blocks with theirs, both will take 2 damage, and then that'll leave both vulnerable to a Wing Zero. So this will damage the defensive posture of the red player a bit more than it does the blue player, because the playing of the Wing Zero would cause them to lose their own unit, but on their turn. They would be able to swing in with it first and then maybe try and maximize some of the abilities that they have for that. It is just a shame because they essentially are going to lose a blocker. And then lastly, another Gundam, OG Gundam, is coming out onto the field. And these also play very well into the Wing Zero deck because they do have Repair 2. So the turn following a Wing Zero hitting them, if they survive, they're just essentially only going to have taken 1 damage from that. So it does work out pretty well for them, and then the blue player is going to finish off their turn by playing as a ward. So really shoring up their defenses, but still representing a decent amount of offensive power with both Gundams on the field. That's going to be a +2 AP as long as that second Gundam gets paired with a pilot of some sort. The red player is going to start off their turn, and it looks like they're getting a pretty big grip of resources, so they're going to go with another Wing Gundam. I think that's the 3rd one for this match, and then having the Link Hero UA for it. So they are going to be able to swing into a level 4 or lower, and now they have 2 of those Wing Gundams on the field, but one of them does have a Changwu Fei attached to it, so it isn't going to take any damage from something with 3 or less AP. And then we see a strike package being played with the Sword Strike Gundam, the 4-2 coming out. It does have blocker, so it will trade very well. And the Wing Gundam with Chang Wufei is going into the unpaired OG Gundam. But Freedom is going to be used to block, so this is going to trade both of those units. However, the Breach 5 is still going to happen, so that Archangel is now going to be destroyed, which is a pretty big deal because that could have been used to help defend the blue player who's only on 2 shields left. The linked Wing Gundam is now swinging in. It looks like they're deciding if they're going to go after a unit or directly after the shields. Either way, though, it's still pretty advantageous. However, they're going to swing directly into the Zawart, which makes a lot of sense, getting that blocker out of the way and then reducing the blue player down to 1 shield left, while the red player still has 2 bodies left. And with 3 resources, they could play another unit as well and attempt to start trying to overwhelm the blue player at this point and get into the last amount of attacks that they need to win the game. Looks like they're taking some time to really think about the situation, and once again, this is something I really love about this game, is the fact that every turn feels like it really matters, and that the decisions you make on those turns have like rippling effects far after. But with that, we see the Lifrith swinging into the other Lifrith, and that's going to trade both of them off, leaving both players with 2 units apiece. With the turn being passed to the blue player, they're going to activate both of their Gundams, and looks like they're about to link the unpaired Gundam with an Amuro, so that is going to be able to suspend the 4-2 blocker and then let them swing into the shields, or possibly trade both those units to completely wipe out the board. Seems like in their hand they have a decent amount of pilots. I think I saw Soletta and then another Kira. So they might be kind of tight on units right now, which would be very beneficial if they could just kind of swarm out the board. So these attacks are going to be very important. And the first attack is going to go into the Sword Strike Gundam. That's going to leave 4 damage, but then with the Repair 2, that's going to bring them down to still having 3 health left, which is once again a very good ability, that Repair 2 on the OG Gundam. And then the second one is going to swing into the Wing Gundam, and this should trade both those units. So now the blue player is in a position where they have a decently healthy OG Gundam, and then now they're going to be playing a blocker as well with the Strike Pack. I imagine they're going to get the 2-4 blocker, so that way it can survive a Wing Zero if it's played from the red player. And that's exactly what they go with. So now they have a blocker that can also defend the OG Gundam if necessary, and then after 2 turns, all the damage that it will have taken will be gone because of that Repair 2. So they're set up in a pretty good spot. The red player does have 3 shields, so there is a chance that a base is in them. So the blue player does have to be careful about how and when they decide they want to start attacking. And with that, they're going to pass the turn over to the red player. They're going to start their turn with a path to victory defeat, and looking at the top 5 and pulling out one of the cards that they need from there. Not sure which one they pulled, just due to not really being able to see the card. But I imagine they're going for one of their high-level units, as they've played a decent amount of the Wing Gundams, the Wing Zeros, and a lot of their blockers. So Wing Zero is going to get played, and that is going to do enough damage to take out the RX-78, and then only leave 3 damage on the Launcher Strike Gundam. Still useful as a blocker, but right now with the Wing Zero having high maneuver, it's not going to be able to stop that from swinging in. However, the blue player does have 2 swings until they lose the game, so they do have a chance to get things figured out before that happens. First thing of their turn, they're going to swing in with a Launcher Strike, and that's going to reveal, looks like a Shenlong Gundam. Then they're going to play another RX-78. Let's see if they have anything to link that with. And there is a Soletta Mercury, so it's not a link, but they do have the pair. And that is going to be pretty nice, because when it does finally swing, it is going to be able to activate a rested resource and potentially extend out that play. So right now, the red player is in an interesting situation. If they swing in with the Wing Zero and they hit a base, even if they have a link, they're not going to be able to win the turn or win the game this turn. And they would have to essentially commit 3 bodies. And I don't even know if they have that many cards in hand. So they pair the Wing Zero with a Duo Maxwell. That's going to give it a little bit of extra HP, the +2 HP to that. So it is going to be able to live a bit longer, even with that paired RX-78. And they are going to swing into the shields. It doesn't hit a base, so now it's open for attack. If they have the link, they just win the game right now, but it looks like they don't, and they pass turn. So this is going to be a very pivotal moment for the blue player, as they have 0 bases, 0 shields, and only 2 units on the field. They are pairing a Kira Yamamoto to the Launcher Strike to give it a little bit of extra attack, and they are going to swing in at the Wing Zero. So that is going to go in for 5, reducing the Wing Zero's AP by 2, but it's not going to matter too much as it does more than enough. And then they swing in the RX-78 as well to the Wing Zero, so that's going to completely wipe the board. The good news is they do have 9 resources left, so they are able to add more bodies to the field, especially if they have links. They're going to be able to swing into the shields as well and slowly get closer and closer to being able to win. Once again, I'm not sure how many cards the red player has in their hand, but I don't think it's many at this point. So with that, the blue player actually passes turn to the red player, so any link right now will win them the game. And it looks like they don't have anything, so that is very surprising. They might have a handful of pilots. The blue player is going to play a Roselle right now, and then pass the turn. So it seems like we're in a very top-decking kind of mode right now, where essentially units are in the premium right now. A striker pack is played from the red player. This is going to get them a blocker. I would imagine they're going to go with the 2-4. Oh, they go with the 4-2. So they're representing a lot of damage with this. This is kind of an interesting choice to me, just because the 2-4, you're not really losing anything when it comes to attack power, as you only need to do 1 damage to the blue player to win the game. But they go with the 4-2, and then they pass turn over to the blue player. The blue player swings in with the Roselle, and it hits a duo, so that's going to be a pilot. That could be dangerous because now, while they do have that Zawart that's coming out on the blue player side of the field, if there is any sort of link that they have, that actually might cost them the game. And after playing the Zawart, they pass turn. This is going to get really interesting, especially with that top deck from the red player. What did they get? Looks like they're using 4 resources, and that's going to be the game. The Gundam Death Scythe, and that's going to be linked to the Duo Maxwell from last turn. It's going to be able to swing in, first strike on whatever it's swinging in at. It has to be blocked by the Zawart, and then the 4-2 strike Gundam is going to be able to take the game. And thinking about it just now, I think the red player went with the 4-2 because of Unforeseen Incident. Since that does -3 AP, it would bring it down to 0 damage. So that would keep them from that card being able to blow them out and stop them from doing the last attack. So I think that was really smart in retrospect to go for that 4-2. It was kind of risky in case there was something that could either bounce something back to hand, but that's the tactical level decisions you kind of have to make in this game, and that's what makes it great. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it really does help me out. And hopefully your new type challenges are going well, as it's Mission 1 season right now. And if you are playing in the new type challenge, leave what deck you're playing in the comments below. Well, mission's over. Let's get to debrief, and I'll see you out there, new type.